Between trade talks with China and trade deal with the Great Britain, we're we're with a market that's trying to find its footing, whether it's going up, going down, or actually not doing too much. Let's summarize the week as we do on a weekly basis. So hello everyone and welcome back. My name is Micha, and on this channel we talk about stocks, we summarize the week, and let's dive directly in. This is how the major averages ended the week. The RSP, the equal weighted S&P, averaged 0.4%. Russell was positive for the week, 0.1, but the rest of the averages down, with NASDAQ down 0.2 and the S&P down 0.47. When we look at the indices themselves, you can see industrials and utilities up, while XLV, the healthcare, and XLP, the staples, down. Of course, healthcare was the worst performer for the week. Crypto market gave us a lot of comfort, with a Bitcoin up almost 10%, while Ethereum is up 37.5% for the week, and it keeps pumping even while I'm recording this video. Commodities, crude oil and natural gas up between 4.1 and 3.4, and both silver and gold up between 0.5 and 0.2. That brings us to the Magnificent Seven. Tesla leading the pack with 3.8%, mainly on Friday, while Google is the laggard for the week, down 6.8%, with Apple down 3.3%, and they're actually creating the turmoil one for the other. We also had earnings, actually solid earnings up to now. The main comment that we keep getting is that there's uncertainty for the future. We heard that from several companies. If I would look at this line of companies for the earnings this week, we heard some good news from AppLovin, from AMD, from Uber. That doesn't mean that the stocks went up, of course. Yet we are still, or companies that are still struggling, like Shopify, Peloton, and others. But at the end of the day, earnings season looks strong and very, very good for the companies, yet there's still a lot of uncertainty. Now let's dive into the news. The Fed this week holds their rate steady, but they are mentioning that they might see stagflation risks. Stagflation meaning higher unemployment while you get higher inflation. Why might that happen? Let's assume we get trade deals and there will be tariffs of 10, 20, 30%. I don't know the percentage. That means that companies will need to do one or two, or increase the price by 10, 20, 30%, or hurt their margins. If they hurt their margins and they still want to show reasonable and healthy margins, they will need to fire people. If they fire people, unemployment rises. That's from the unemployment side. They will not be able to absorb all the tariffs, so they will need to transfer some of the tariffs to the customers. If they transfer some of the tariffs to customers, that means that you just got inflation. That's why they're mentioning stagflation. Trump didn't like that, and of course called Jerome Powell a fool for saying that, or for not reducing rates yet. And Trump keeps bashing Jerome Powell while saying, but I love the guy. So kind of a love-hate situation. In Geneva right now, in Switzerland, both the American team and the Chinese team are negotiating trade talks between them. And there was a very strange incident a few hours ago. I'm recording this on Saturday. A few hours ago, the Chinese delegation just left. All Twitter was on fire, saying that the talks just blew up. Apparently, they just went to eat lunch, but no one knew about it. They just saw them leaving, and everyone was scared, so they came back. And for the day, they're adjourned because it's night in Geneva. Let's see tomorrow what the cat would bring in. A new pope was nominated this week, Pope Leo. India and Pakistan reached a ceasefire, although after there was still fire between both countries. Donald Trump was the main negotiator, at least according to his account on Truth Social, and he brought the ceasefire. For that, nuclear plants, we get more and more of these nuclear plants that are waiting for the executive order from Trump to increase the speed. They need a lot of capital. That's why the executive order is critical. NVIDIA is downgrading their H20 chips for China. At some point, it's useless because it becomes that narrow by capabilities that why would the Chinese company buy that and not buy Huawei, which is a Chinese company? I don't know, but maybe there's a reason for that. Trump unveils the trade agreement with England, and that's or United Kingdom. That's very good news. Although there wasn't a clear deficit with United Kingdom, so it's not that huge of achievement, except the declaration of it. Boeing may be back on track. Maybe getting more orders from British Airways, 30 more Boeing jets. CrowdStrike lays off around 5% of their workforce, and their CEO, George Kurtz, says that AI is reshaping every industry. In other words, AI just got you fired. Apple's EDQ and Google. So I'll explain very clear what happened there. There's a DOJ lawsuit against Google for monopoly. During the trial, Google is bringing experts saying that there's no monopoly. One of them was Eddie Q, SVP of Services in Apple. He's taking the stand and saying that during the month of April, the amount of searches through Google search in iPhones went down. First time in years. Which means that people are, and he keeps on saying, people are using GPTs more than they're using Google. That, of course, hurt Google's stock, and it went down dramatically that day, 7.5%. And it also impacted Apple. Why would it impact Apple if you try to figure out? Google is paying tens of billions of dollars every year for Apple to be the default search engine, aka the trial. But if it's going down and GPTs is replacing, then maybe they're not a monopoly. And if they're not a monopoly, then the case should be closed. So, it really depends. But both stocks got hammered this week by that news. Google sent out a statement saying that everything's okay. There's no problem with traffic. If I would say that it was a rumor or an analyst, that might hold some kind of weight. But since Eddie Q said it, he has no reason to lie, especially in court. Disney reported the earnings this week, actually with a solid growth in members, but mainly they shared that they're building a new Abu Dhabi Disney theme park. That'll be very interesting. Amazon unveils a plan to invest $4 billion in infrastructure in Chile. DoorDash acquires Deliveroo, a British delivery company. Google's Waymo expand robotaxi fleet by another 2,000 new vehicles. Everyone is ramping up before Tesla launches their cybercab and autonomous driving. WeRide and Uber team up for Abu Dhabi and Dubai. Uber and Pony AI team up for Middle East. Pony AI had a very tremendous move this week due to this news. Morgan Stanley said Walmart Plus membership hits a new all-time high. Apple's probably going to go to court and try to change the ruling that Epic Games got, that companies can sell outside the App Store. That is, again, will hurt Apple's revenue coming in from those products. Google took their number of zeros and created a new studio called 100 Zeros, which is Google. And last but not least, which I don't remember if we talked about last week, Warren Buffett has decided at the end of the year to transfer the keys to Berkshire Hathaway to Greg Abel and will step down as CEO, and Greg Abel will become the CEO. Warren Buffett will stay in the board, of course. He will stay as a chairman, but he won't run the company day by day. Those were the news for the week. Let's talk about next week because we're starting it in 2 days. Companies that are reporting are more on the smaller side. You can see smaller companies like Rigetti for quantum computing, STS for missiles, Archer for human drones, NU, Oklo, others on Tuesday. Wednesday, we get Cisco, which is not that small, but less focused at this time. We also will hear from CoreWeave, who produces GPU as a service. Thursday, we will hear from Alibaba, Walmart, John Deere, and after the bell, we will hear from Applied Materials and Kava. As you can see, not the biggest companies out there. From an economic calendar perspective, Tuesday, 8:30 Eastern, we get CPI. Thursday, 8:30 Eastern, we get PPI. We will get both the producer price index and the consumer price index both at the same week to better understand where inflation is going. And that, of course, brings us to the S&P 500, which is usually shown here on TradingView in Japanese candlestick. This time I'm going to put it at a regular chart just to explain very clearly where we are. We are now at a very critical and important point. This red line is the 200-day moving average, simple moving average. It takes sums 200 days of closing price and divides it by 200. Very easy. There's a saying in Wall Street that says the following: nothing good happens underneath the 200-day moving average. And we are underneath 200-day moving average. We were not able to surpass the 200-day moving average. It doesn't mean that we will not be able. It just means that currently we are not able to surpass that, which means the 200-day moving average right now is kind of our resistance. We need to go above it, which means that we need to close above 57.48. We haven't closed that high from March, and before that from another March. So that's where we need to be. If we don't close above it, then that means we can or will start going down. Next stop would be 55.75, and we also have a gap which I hid here, a gap at around 53. Not all of this is going to happen this week, and hopefully it won't happen at all. We will just see buyers and go above 57.48 and everything would be good. Just know that we are heading right now a huge area of resistance, which usually creates that turmoil and a bit of a correction, which would be very healthy for the market. Because right now the market came back to be greedy, and we don't like that greed. That's how we're ending this week. We're going to meet again, same time, same place, next week. Till next time, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you, and bye-bye.